The summons. The crystalline spires of Nexus Prime hummed with an urgency that hadn't been felt in 3,000 cycles. Ambassador Thelzara of the Varinian Collective watched as representatives from 47 species materialized in the Grand Chamber, their holographic forms flickering with interference from the emergency broadcast protocols. The ancient hall, carved from a single quantum-locked asteroid, had witnessed the fall of empires and the birth of new civilizations, but never had she seen such panic in the eyes of her fellow counselors. "This session will come to order," declared High Arbiter Kesrin, his forearms spreading wide in the traditional gesture of grave concern. The amphibious diplomat's skin had turned the deep purple that indicated extreme stress among his kind. "We convene today to address a matter of unprecedented severity. The species designated as humans have been active in our galactic community for merely 16 orbital cycles, yet they have already disrupted the established order in ways we never anticipated." Thelzara's antennae twitched with interest. She had heard whispers about the humans, those strange bipedal mammals from a backwater planet they called Earth. Their admission to the Galactic Council had been controversial from the start, pushed through by the Zentarii Empire as part of some political maneuver she had never fully understood. "With all due respect, High Arbiter," interjected Ambassador Corvex of the Silicon Concordance, his mineral-based form grinding with irritation, "we have dealt with upstart species before. The humans may be enthusiastic, but surely they cannot warrant an emergency session." Kesrin's expression darkened. "Perhaps a demonstration is in order. Council, please direct your attention to the central display." The holographic projector activated, filling the chamber with images that made Thelzara's 3 hearts skip in unison. Ships, thousands of them, bearing human designation codes, swarming through sectors that had been deemed too dangerous for exploration. Mining operations on planets with atmospheric pressures that would crush most species' vessels. Humans walking on the surfaces of worlds bathed in radiation levels considered instantly lethal. "This footage," Kesrin continued, "was taken in the Scorched Belt, a region we classified as a dead zone after the Plague Wars left it contaminated with Vex 9 radiation. The estimated survivable exposure time is approximately 4 microcycles for any known species." The image zoomed in on a human, clad in what appeared to be a simple protective suit, casually dismantling automated defense systems that had been deemed too dangerous to approach. The figure paused, lifted his helmet's visor, and took a drink from a container before continuing his work. "By the ancients," whispered Minister Zephania of the Lumini Communion, her bioluminescent form flashing in distress. "They're not even using proper containment suits. That's barely more than fabric and basic shielding." "It gets worse," Kesrin said grimly. He pulled up another file. 3 cycles ago, the humans responded to a distress call from a Corvinian cargo vessel trapped in the gravity well of a collapsing neutron star. 6 rescue ships from various species attempted the extraction and failed. The humans sent a single vessel crewed by 4 individuals. The footage showed a blocky human ship, primitive by galactic standards, diving into gravitational forces that should have torn it apart. Thelzara watched in horrified fascination as the humans not only reached the Corvinian ship but physically attached towing cables and dragged it free through a maneuver that violated at least 9 laws of physics as she understood them. The rescue crew's leader, Kesrin continued, identified herself as Captain Maya Okonkwo. When asked how they survived the gravitational shear, she reportedly said, and I quote, "We just turned up the engines and gave it some attitude." A ripple of concerned murmurs spread through the chamber. Ambassador Drew Math of the Hejesian Protectorate, a species known for their military prowess, spoke up. "High Arbiter, are you suggesting these humans pose a military threat? Their technology is at least 2 generations behind current standards." "That's precisely the problem, Drew Math," Kesrin replied. "They don't need superior technology. Last cycle, a human merchant vessel encountered a krill raiding party, 3 warships against 1 unarmed cargo hauler. The humans rammed 2 of the warships, disabled the 3rd with improvised explosives made from their own engine coolant, and then offered medical aid to the surviving krill pirates." Thelzara felt her diplomatic composure slipping. The krill were among the most feared raiders in the galaxy. No one fought them hand-to-hand and survived, let alone offered them medical assistance afterward. "The human captain's name," Kesrin said, his voice heavy with implications, "was Dmitry Volkov. His report classified the incident as Tuesday." The chamber erupted into chaos. The human factor. High Arbiter Kesrin allowed the pandemonium to continue for exactly 30 seconds before activating the harmonic dampeners. The crystalline walls of the grand chamber emitted a frequency that commanded attention without causing discomfort, a technology perfected over millennia of diplomatic discourse. "Honored representatives, please," Kesrin's voice cut through the dying tumult. "We have not yet reached the core of the issue. Minister Zephania, would you present your findings?" The Lumini representative floated forward, her translucent form pulsing with nervous energy. 3 cycles ago, I was tasked with conducting a comprehensive study of human behavior and psychology. What I discovered challenges our fundamental understanding of sentient evolution. She activated her personal display, filling the chamber with complex neurological diagrams. Humans possess a neurochemical cascade they refer to as adrenaline response. When faced with danger, their bodies essentially poison themselves with stimulants that increase strength, decrease pain sensitivity, and enhance reaction time. They have evolved to become more capable when threatened. "Many species have threat responses," interrupted Counselor Vextherin of the Hive Winds, his insectoid features clicking with skepticism. "This is hardly unique." "You misunderstand," Zephania replied. "Most species experience heightened awareness. Humans experience heightened aggression and reduced fear response. But that's not the concerning part. Humans actively seek out this state. They recreate it artificially through activities they call extreme sports." New images appeared, humans jumping from aircraft without proper gravitic compensation, climbing sheer rock faces with minimal equipment, and intentionally subjecting themselves to high-velocity impacts for something they called entertainment. Thelzara leaned forward, her scholarly nature overriding her diplomatic reserve. "Surely this is aberrant behavior, not representative of the species as a whole?" "Ambassador Thelzara, I wish that were true," Zephania said softly. "But it extends to every aspect of their culture. Humans have a concept they call, 'hold my beer.' It's a colloquial phrase used before attempting something monumentally dangerous and potentially stupid. They have turned this into a social bonding ritual." The chamber fell silent as representatives processed this information. "There's more," Zephania continued, her light dimming with what Thelzara recognized as embarrassment. "I attempted to study human military history to understand their threat assessment capabilities. I had to stop after reviewing only their most recent 500 orbital cycles." "Why?" demanded Drumath, the Hejesian military ambassador, leaning forward with interest. "Because in that period they fought over 16,000 significant conflicts among themselves. They have never known true peace. But here's what truly disturbed me. Many of their greatest technological and social advances emerged directly from or immediately following these conflicts. They quite literally innovate faster when trying to destroy each other." Ambassador Kalana of the Serene Confederacy, a species that had achieved perfect pacifism millennia ago, spoke for the first time, her melodic voice trembling. That's not possible. No species can maintain cohesion with such internal conflict. They should have destroyed themselves long before achieving space travel." "Yet they didn't," Kesrin interjected. "In fact, they nearly did multiple times and chose not to. They developed weapons capable of sterilizing their entire planet, aimed them at each other, and then collectively decided not to use them. They stood on the brink of self-annihilation and stepped back." Thelzara felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. A species that could choose restraint after developing such power was far more frightening than one that would use it. "High Arbiter, what exactly are you proposing?" asked Elder Sarnak of the Timeless Watchers, an ancient species that rarely involved itself in council matters. His presence alone indicated the severity of the situation. Kesrin's 4 arms folded in the posture of ultimate concern. "Yesterday, a human exploration vessel named Wandering Star made contact with the Void Collective." The chamber went deathly silent. The Void Collective was not so much a species as a force of nature. Cybernetic entities that had consumed 17 civilizations and turned their populations into mindless drones. Every military force in the galaxy avoided their territory. There was no negotiating with them, no reasoning, only conversion or death. The Void sent their standard assimilation fleet, 43 harvester ships, Kesrin continued. The Wandering Star was a research vessel with a crew of 12, led by Dr. Kenji Yamamoto. They had no weapons. He paused, letting the implications sink in. Dr. Yamamoto hacked the Void Collective's command network using what he described as some code I wrote for fun in university, turned their fleet against itself, and then sent a message to their central intelligence. Another pause. The tension in the chamber was palpable. The message read, "We know where you live. Be nice." Thelzara's antennae nearly fell off. The investigation. The emergency recess lasted exactly 1 standard hour, but Thelzara suspected many representatives needed far longer to process the implications. She found herself in the diplomatic gardens, a rare open space on Nexus Prime where representatives could think without the weight of formal protocol. Remarkable, aren't they? Thelzara turned to find Elder Sarnak beside her, his ancient form seeming to materialize from the shadows between the bioluminescent trees. The timeless watcher rarely spoke to anyone directly and never casually. Elder Sarnak, I didn't realize you shared my concern about the human situation. I don't share your concern, Ambassador, the elder replied, his crystalline eyes reflecting eons of accumulated wisdom. I share your fascination. The humans are the most interesting development in our galaxy in 10,000 cycles. Before Thelzara could respond, a new voice interrupted. Fascinating, terrifying, these humans are becoming a liability. Ambassador Drumath approached, his armored form marking him clearly as a warrior species despite his diplomatic role. We should contain them before they destabilize the entire galactic order. Contain? Thelzara's diplomatic instincts bristled. That seems extreme, Drumath. They've been abrasive but hardly hostile. Haven't they? Drumath pulled up a datapad. 2 cycles ago, a human trade delegation walked out of negotiations with the Merchant Guild because, and I quote, your math is wrong and your attitude is worse. They were correct about the math, which was apparently rigged to favor the guild. The humans didn't just expose it. They published a tutorial on how to avoid getting scammed by intergalactic trade federations that's become the most downloaded document in the core worlds. Elder Sarnak made a sound that might have been laughter. Yes, I read that. It was quite informative. It's disrupted commercial relationships that have existed for centuries. Drumath protested. And that's just economics. Do you know what they did to the Territorial Claims Commission? Thelzara did know. Everyone knew. A human lawyer named Isabella Reeves had discovered that most territorial claims in the galaxy were based on a treaty written in a language that had gone extinct 4,000 years ago. The translation everyone used had apparently been wrong, which meant approximately 30% of established borders were technically invalid. The resulting chaos was still being sorted out. The humans aren't trying to cause problems, Thelzara argued, though she wasn't entirely sure she believed it. They're just different. They approach things from angles we've never considered. Different? Drumatha's voice rose. Yesterday, I received a report from the Frontier Defense Network. A civilian, responded to a call for military contractors to help reinforce the Outer Rim defenses against pirate incursions. Do you know what this human proposed? I suspect you're going to tell us, Elder Sarnak said mildly. She suggested we stop focusing on defense and instead track down the pirates' home bases and, quote, solve the problem at the source. When informed that such offensive operations would violate the Concordat of peaceful coexistence, she asked why we had a treaty protecting organized criminals. Thelzara felt her diplomatic mask slip. That was actually a fair question. The human's name, Drumath continued, is Commander Astrid Nielsen, formerly of Earth's naval forces. She's now offering training courses on aggressive deterrence, and has attracted recruits from 40 different species. She calls her organization the galaxy's most dangerous daycare. The name is a reference to human humor, a new voice interjected. All 3 representatives turned to see a human approaching, the first any of them had seen in person. She was shorter than Thelzara expected, with dark skin and intelligent eyes that seemed to catalog everything they observed. Commander Nielsen has a particular fondness for ironic nomenclature. I'm Ambassador Nyla Hassan, Earth's diplomatic representative. I understand you're all trying to figure out what to do about us. The directness was startling. Thelzara had never encountered a species that would acknowledge such a discussion so openly. Ambassador Hassan, Thelzara began carefully, your species has caused considerable disruption since joining the Galactic Council. I know, Hassan replied simply. And I'm here to explain why that's not going to stop, and why that's actually good news for everyone involved. Drumatha's hand moved toward his weapon. That sounds like a threat. No, Ambassador Drumath, it's an observation. Hassan's smile was disarming. Humanity has a saying, the only constant is change. Your galactic civilization has been stable for so long that you've forgotten how to adapt. You've optimized yourselves into stagnation. We're about to remind you what progress looks like. Elder Sarnak's crystalline form seemed to brighten with genuine interest. Please, Ambassador Hassan, continue. I find myself eager to hear your perspective. Hassan's smile widened. Well, Elder, it starts with understanding what humans actually are. We're not just another species seeking our place among the stars. We're the universe's way of asking, what if we tried something absolutely insane and made it work? The human defense. The Grand Chamber reconvened with a new participant. Ambassador Naila Hassan stood at the center of the assembly, seemingly unbothered by the 47 species whose attention focused on her like weapons targeting. Thelzara had to admire the human's composure, even as she worried about what Hassan might say. High Arbiter Kesran's 4 arms gestured formally. Ambassador Hassan, you have requested the opportunity to address this council regarding your species. This is highly irregular, but given the circumstances we have agreed. You may proceed. Hassan nodded, then did something that shocked everyone present. She laughed. You're all terrified of us, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Not because we're stronger, smarter, or more advanced. You're scared because we don't play by the rules you've established. And you know what? You're absolutely right to be concerned. But not for the reasons you think. Counselor Vextheron's mandibles clicked aggressively. You admit to being a threat? I admit to being unpredictable, Hassan corrected. There's a difference. Let me tell you a story about humanity that might help you understand what you're dealing with. She activated her own holographic display showing an image of Earth, specifically, a massive ocean with primitive vessels upon it. 500 of your cycles ago, humans had barely discovered how to harness electricity. We lived on a single planet, divided into hundreds of competing groups, and we had a limited understanding of our own world. There were vast oceans we had never crossed, territories we had never explored. Do you know what we did? Focused on internal development? Suggested Minister Zephania hopefully. We built boats and sailed into waters that would kill us, Hassan replied. We didn't know what was out there. We had no guarantee of survival. Many of those early expeditions ended in death. But we kept going because humans have a fundamental need encoded in our psychology. We must know what's beyond the horizon. New images appeared, humans climbing mountains, diving into deep oceans, launching themselves into space on controlled explosions. Every species here has a survival instinct, Hassan continued. You avoid danger, seek comfort, establish stability. These are logical, evolutionary advantages. Humans have those instincts too, but we also have something else. Curiosity that overrides our survival instinct. We see something that says this will kill you, and a significant portion of us think, but what if it doesn't? Ambassador Quilana's melodic voice carried a note of concern. Ambassador Hassan, you describe your species as fundamentally irrational. No, I describe us as fundamentally willing to take calculated risks that other species find incomprehensible, Hassan clarified. Let me give you a concrete example. Captain Maya Okonkwo, who rescued the Corvinian vessel from the neutron star. She's not a military officer or a special operative. She's a civilian cargo hauler who used to be a school teacher. She saw people in danger and didn't hesitate. That's admirable but proves our point, Drumath interjected. Your species acts without proper risk assessment. This makes you dangerous to yourselves and others. Hassan's expression grew serious. Ambassador Drumath, has your species ever faced extinction? The question hung in the air. Drumatha's armored form stiffened. No. The Hejesian Protectorate has maintained stability for 3,000 cycles. Humanity has faced extinction 17 times that we know of, Hassan stated flatly. Climate catastrophes, asteroid impacts, supervolcano eruptions, pandemics, and yes, our own weapons. We survived all of them not through superior technology or strength, but through adaptability and sheer stubborn refusal to give up. She pulled up another display, genetic markers and survival traits. We evolved on a planet that was actively trying to kill us. Earth has more natural disasters, predatory species, and environmental hazards than 90% of inhabited worlds in the galaxy. We survived by becoming the most adaptable species imaginable. Thelzara found herself leaning forward, her scholarly interest piqued. Ambassador Hassan, you're describing humanity as if it's a feature, not a flaw, that you're so chaotic. Because it is, Hassan replied simply. You've all built a galactic civilization based on stability, predictability, and established norms. That's admirable, and it's allowed for unprecedented peace and prosperity. But it's also made you vulnerable to exactly one thing, the truly unexpected. The Void Collective, Elder Sarnak said quietly. Hassan pointed at the ancient being. Exactly. The Void is everything your civilization isn't: chaotic, unpredictable, and adaptive. Your established military doctrines don't work against them because they don't follow predictable patterns. Dr. Yamamoto defeated them because he approached the problem like a human. He didn't try to fight according to established rules. He cheated, improvised, and made it up as he went along. That's not a military strategy, Drumath protested. That's barely controlled chaos. Welcome to human military doctrine, Hassan said with a grin. We have an entire military philosophy based on the principle that no plan survives contact with the enemy, so make it up as you go and be more creative than the other guy. The chamber erupted into discussion, but Hassan raised her hand. I'm not finished. You need to understand something crucial. Humanity isn't here to replace your civilization. We're here to complement it. The proposal. High Arbiter Kestrin's harmonic dampeners brought order once more, but Thelzara could sense the shift in the chamber's atmosphere. Fear was giving way to something more complex. Uncertainty mixed with curiosity. Ambassador Hassan had their attention. You speak of complementing our civilization, Kestrin said carefully. Please elaborate, Ambassador Hassan. What exactly does humanity propose? Hassan's expression grew earnest, the casual humor falling away. High Arbiter, honored representatives, your galactic civilization has achieved something humanity only dreamed of for millennia. Lasting peace among diverse species, coordinated exploration, shared prosperity. It's beautiful and it's fragile. The problem is that you've optimized for the threats you know, not the ones you don't. She manipulated her holographic display, bringing up a star map of the galaxy with various zones marked. In the past 1,000 cycles, how many new species have joined the Galactic Council? Minister Zephania answered promptly. 7, including humanity. And before humans, when was the last time the Council faced a significant external threat? Silence. Thelzara knew the answer. It had been over 300 cycles since the Krill Wars, and even that had been more of a police action than an existential threat. You've become accustomed to stability, Hassan continued. Your protocols are designed for known variables. Your military strategies assume conventional warfare. Your diplomatic frameworks expect rational actors. But the galaxy is bigger and stranger than any of us can fully comprehend. The Void Collective is just one example of what's out there. Elder Sarnak spoke, his ancient voice thoughtful. You suggest we need chaos to counter the unknown. But how does one weaponize unpredictability without destroying the order we've built? You don't weaponize it, Hassan replied. You integrate it. Think of humanity as your galaxy's immune system. We're the response to novel threats. You've seen how we've disrupted your systems in 16 cycles. Imagine if that disruptive energy was channeled constructively. Drumath's skepticism was evident. You want us to legitimize your chaos? I want you to recognize that adaptability isn't chaos, it's evolution in real time, Hassan countered. Let me show you something. The display changed, showing a human facility on a harsh planetary surface. This is Research Station Prometheus on the planet you designated as Sigma-7. Your surveys classified it as uninhabitable, corrosive atmosphere, extreme temperature fluctuations, seismic instability. Humans have been living there for 2 cycles, conducting materials research. Impossible, Counselor Vextherin buzzed. The atmospheric composition would dissolve standard structural materials within days. Standard materials, yes, Hassan agreed. But Dr. Chin Wei and her team developed new polymer composites by studying how Earth's extremophile bacteria adapt to hostile environments. Those composites are now available for any Council species to use. 3 colonies in the Outer Rim have already requisitioned them for expansion into previously uninhabitable zones. Thelzara felt something click in her understanding. You're saying humans solve problems the rest of us don't even attempt. More than that, Hassan said, warming to her subject. We solve problems by failing first. Dr. Chen's team had 17 catastrophic failures before they succeeded. Any other species would have abandoned the project after the 3rd failure and marked Sigma-7 as a write-off. Humans see failure as data. She brought up more examples. Agricultural techniques adapted from human permaculture, healing the devastated ecosystems on 3 worlds. Medical procedures inspired by human battlefield triage, reducing emergency response times by 40%. And most surprisingly, conflict resolution techniques based on human sports psychology, helping mediate disputes on 4 colonies. Every one of these innovations came from applying human perspective to existing galactic problems, Hassan explained. We don't have superior technology or ancient wisdom. We have a different way of thinking. Lateral, intuitive, sometimes completely illogical by your standards but effective. Ambassador Quilana's bioluminescence pulsed with what Thelzara recognized as contemplation. Ambassador Hassan, you paint an appealing picture. But the chaos you describe has real cost. The territorial claims crisis alone has destabilized governments. The territorial claims crisis exposed a fundamental flaw in your system, Hassan replied, her voice gentle but firm. Yes, it's causing short-term disruption. But would you rather have discovered that flaw when something really critical was at stake? Isabella Reeves found a legal time bomb that's been ticking for 4,000 years. Better to address it now than during an actual crisis. And if we refuse your proposal? Drumath asked. If we decide humanity is too disruptive to integrate fully? Hassan met his gaze steadily. Then we'll continue doing what we're doing anyway, just without coordination. Commander Nielsen's training program doesn't need council approval. Dr. Yamamoto's research doesn't require permission. Captain Okonkwo isn't waiting for authorization to help people in danger. You can't contain human nature any more than you can contain a star. But you can harness it. The chamber fell silent as representatives processed this. Thelzara realized the truth of Hassan's words. Humanity wasn't asking for permission to be themselves. They were offering to do it cooperatively. What specifically do you propose? Kesran asked finally. Hassan smiled. I propose we create the Adaptive Response Initiative. The initiative. The holographic display transformed, showing a new organizational structure that made several representatives lean forward with interest and others recoil with concern. Thelzara found herself in the former category, her analytical mind already racing through the implications. The Adaptive Response Initiative, Hassan began, would be a council-sanctioned organization specifically designed to address problems that fall outside conventional solutions. Think of it as a special operations division, but for the galaxy's weirdest challenges. You want a license to cause chaos, Drumath said flatly. I want a framework to channel human unpredictability toward productive ends, Hassan corrected. Right now, humans are scattered across the galaxy, improvising solutions individually. The ARI would coordinate those efforts and pair human approaches with galactic resources and expertise. Kesran's four arms moved in a gesture of cautious interest. Describe the operational structure. Hassan pulled up detailed schematics. Mixed species teams always. For every human, at least 2 representatives from established council species. Humans provide the unconventional thinking and risk tolerance. Your species provide the wisdom, experience, and, frankly, the common sense to keep us from getting too reckless. You admit your species lacks common sense? Vextherin clicked skeptically. We admit our definition of acceptable risk differs from yours, Hassan replied with disarming honesty. But that's why this works. Put Captain Okonkwo on a team with a Corvinian navigator and a Hejisian tactical officer, and you get the benefits of human audacity tempered by experienced judgment. Thelzara spoke up. Ambassador Hassan, can you provide a practical example of how such a team would function? Absolutely. 2 cycles ago, the mining colony on their Axis 3 faced a critical situation. A quantum drill had pierced into a previously unknown underground cavern system filled with exotic matter. Standard procedure would be to evacuate and abandon the site, correct? Several representatives nodded. Exotic matter was notoriously unstable and unpredictable. A human engineer named Marcus Okafor was on site, Hassan continued. Instead of evacuating, he jury-rigged a containment system using the drill's own quantum field generators, then used the exotic matter's properties to enhance the mining operation. Theraxis 3 is now the most productive mining facility in the sector. He could have destroyed the entire colony. Minister Zephania's light flashed alarm colors. But he didn't, Hassan said simply. And here's the key point. Marcus consulted with the Varinian chief engineer and a Silicon Concordance physicist before attempting the containment. He had the idea, but they helped him make it safe. That's what the ARI would formalize. Elder Sarnak's crystalline form seemed to resonate with thought. You propose a symbiosis. Human innovation guided by council wisdom. Exactly, Hassan confirmed. And it flows both ways. Dr. Chen's polymer research on Sigma-7? She was inspired by reading a Lumini scientific paper on adaptive biochemistry. Isabella Reeves' legal analysis used timeless Watcher historical records. Humans are good at lateral thinking, but we're even better when we have access to the galaxy's collective knowledge. Quilana's melody carried curiosity now. What oversight mechanisms would constrain this initiative? 3-tier authorization, Hassan replied, pulling up governance structures. Tier 1, standard operations, mixed team approval only. Tier 2, significant risk operations, requires council subcommittee approval. Tier 3, potential galactic scale impact, Requires full council authorization and multiple species representation on the team. And who would lead this initiative? Kesran asked. Not a human, Hassan said, surprising everyone. The director should be a council species with extensive diplomatic and crisis management experience. Someone who understands both conventional and unconventional approaches. Someone who can say no to humans when we're being truly reckless. Thelzara felt dozens of eyes turn toward her. Her scholarly reputation and diplomatic service made her an obvious candidate, though the thought both thrilled and terrified her. The deputy director could be human, Hassan continued, providing the unconventional perspective. But ultimate authority rests with someone who represents the council's values and wisdom. Drumath stood, his armored form imposing. Ambassador Hassan, I have opposed human integration from the beginning. Your species is reckless, disruptive, and operates outside established norms. He paused, and Thelzara detected something unexpected in his voice. However, I cannot deny the results you've achieved. The Corvinian rescue, the Void collective encounter, the innovations you've described, these are undeniably valuable. The chamber held its breath. I propose a trial period, Drumath continued. Establish the Adaptive Response Initiative with full oversight, limited jurisdiction, and clear success metrics. 300 cycles. If humanity proves they can work within a framework, even one designed for unconventional operations, then we discuss permanent integration. Hassan nodded slowly. I can work with that. But I need to be clear about something. Her expression grew serious. Humans will fail. We will have setbacks, accidents, and disasters that could have been avoided with more caution. That's part of our process. The question is whether the Council can accept that failure is sometimes the price of innovation. Failure with accountability, Kesran said. The ARI operates with transparency. All operations logged, all risks assessed, all mistakes documented and learned from. Agreed, Hassan said. We'll fail forward, but we'll do it by the book. Thelzara found herself speaking before she could reconsider. I nominate myself as director of the Adaptive Response Initiative. The new order. 6 cycles later, Thelzara stood in the newly constructed ARI headquarters on Nexus Prime, reviewing status reports from 12 active operations across the galaxy. Her antennae twitched with a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration, emotions she'd become familiar with since accepting the director position. Director Thelzara, called a voice from behind her. She turned to find her deputy director, a human woman named Sam Rodriguez, approaching with 2 others. I'd like you to meet the team for Operation Lighthouse. Thelzara studied the trio. Besides Rodriguez, a former Earth Special Forces operator with an unsettling calm demeanor, there was a Corvinian astrogator named Velcor and a Lumini xenobiologist called Shintra. An unconventional group for an unconventional mission. You're going into the Shroud Nebula, Thelzara said, referencing the region of space that had defied exploration for centuries due to sensor scrambling properties and unpredictable spatial distortions. Standard doctrine classifies it as a no-entry zone. Which is exactly why we need to investigate it, Rodriguez replied. Recent quantum fluctuations suggest something's active in there. Could be natural phenomena, could be something else. Either way, ignorance isn't a sustainable strategy. It was pure human logic, and Thelzara had learned to recognize when that logic actually made sense. Your risk assessment? High but manageable, Velcor answered, his multiple eyes displaying complex calculations. Human improvisation combined with Corvinian navigation and Lumini sensors gives us capabilities no single species mission would have. We've planned for 17 contingencies and accepted that we'll probably encounter a scenario we didn't anticipate. That's what makes it interesting, Shintra added, her bioluminescence flickering with excitement. Director, 6 cycles ago I would never have volunteered for a high-risk mission. But watching humans approach the unknown has been educational. They've taught me that calculated risk isn't the same as recklessness. Thelzara felt a surge of pride. This was exactly what the ARI was meant to accomplish. Not just giving humans a productive outlet, but changing how all species approach challenges. Approved, she said, marking the authorization. But Rodriguez, if you come back with another, we made friends with the anomaly report like the Omega Rift incident, I'm assigning you to paperwork for a month. Rodriguez grinned. No promises, Director. As the team departed, Thelzara's communicator chimed with an urgent message from High Arbiter Kesran. She answered immediately. Director Thelzara, we have a situation. Kesran's image appeared, his 4 arms displaying maximum concern. The Void Collective has made an unexpected move. They've sent a diplomatic communication, their first in recorded history. Thelzara's 3 hearts accelerated. What do they want? They want to negotiate with Dr. Yamamoto specifically. They've requested a meeting to discuss what they call mutual non-interference protocols. The Void Collective doesn't negotiate. They assimilate. They didn't negotiate before, Kesrin corrected. Apparently, Dr. Yamamoto's intervention has caused them to recalculate their approach to humanity. They're curious about us now instead of treating us as mere resources. Thelzara understood the implication immediately. Humanity hadn't just defended themselves against the Void, they'd made the Void interested in something other than consumption. That was simultaneously the most hopeful and most terrifying development in galactic history. I'll contact Dr. Yamamoto, she said. We'll need a full diplomatic team for this. Already being assembled, Kesrin confirmed. Thelzara, when we established the ARI, I had doubts. I supported it because the alternative was uncontrolled human chaos spreading across the galaxy. But what you've built, these mixed teams, these successes, it's exceeding expectations. The humans are exceeding expectations, Thelzara corrected. I'm just providing the framework to keep them from accidentally destroying everything while they innovate. Kesrin's expression softened, something rare for the High Arbiter. You're doing more than that. You're teaching the galaxy to think differently. The applications for ARI-developed technologies have increased by 300%. 5 species have adapted human training methodologies for their own programs. Even the Peaceful Coexistence Concordat is being revised based on insights from Commander Nielsen's defensive strategy workshops. Thelzara pulled up a holographic display of the galaxy, now marked with dozens of ARI operations, human settlements, and collaborative projects between humanity and various council species. In just 6 cycles, the galactic landscape had transformed. High Arbiter, do you remember what Ambassador Hassan said during her address? That humanity wasn't here to replace our civilization but to complement it. I remember. I think she undersold it, Thelzara said, her antennae expressing satisfaction. Humanity isn't complementing our civilization. They're evolving it. They're reminding us that stability without adaptability is stagnation, that rules should serve progress rather than prevent it, and that the unknown isn't something to fear but something to engage with curious minds and bold hearts. On her display, a new notification appeared. Captain Okonkwo's transport had just offered assistance to a distressed vessel in a region most species avoided. The stranded ship's crew was from a species that had opposed human integration most vocally. Thelzara watched the rescue operation unfold in real time. By the time it was complete, she suspected there would be one fewer opponent of human integration in the galaxy. The human problem, she mused aloud, was never really a problem at all. It was an opportunity we didn't recognize because we'd forgotten what progress looked like. And now? Kesrin asked. Thelzara's antennae curved in the Varinian expression of confident satisfaction. Now we remember. And the galaxy will never be the same. Across the chamber, her console chimed with incoming messages, mission requests, collaboration proposals, and reports from human-led teams solving problems in ways that shouldn't work but somehow did. The Adaptive Response Initiative was thriving, humanity was integrating, and the Galactic Council was learning that sometimes the best solution to an unprecedented challenge was an unprecedented species willing to try things no one else would dare. The emergency session had been about the human problem. But as Thelzara reviewed the data, she realized the real emergency had been the galaxy's resistance to change. Humanity hadn't come to disrupt the galactic order, they'd come to save it from its own stagnation. And judging by the results, they were succeeding brilliantly.